Welcome to our March 22 release webinar. My name is Laurens Wapenaar. I am product manager at FinDock, and with me to give you some demos is Stefan van der Knaap, our VP of Product. And we're very excited about this release, which is already in your sandbox environments and will be released to production environments automatically the 27th of March. That means that there's a 4-week sandbox period, one of which has almost passed, and it's part of our new release cycle that we started this year, where we switched from 1-month releases to 2-month releases with a 4-week sandbox period to give you more time to test against your existing environments. These are the main topics for today. We've got lots to talk about and lots to show. We'll be talking about additional improvements to giving pages. We've did some very interesting things with guided matching, and we've launched a beta for GoCardless Instant Bank Pay. And of course, there's the regular list of bugs and enhancements based on projects and feedback that we got from customers and partners. And we'll start with a brief update on our betas. We had one running beta in SEPA Credit Transfer. With this release, that beta has been promoted, well, the feature has been promoted to generally available, which means it's available to all customers. If you want to use it, please contact us and we can help you set it up. There's a new beta though, for GoCardless Instant Bank Pay. Because this is new, we want to figure out, well, with our customers and partners, whether the first integration that we've made is good, whether you like how we've done it, whether there should be additional improvements before we take it generally available, hopefully in May. So let's get started with FinDock Giving Pages, our first topic of today. So to give you some context of the journey that we've been on with FinDock Giving Pages, we started this quite a while ago with the introduction of our new payment API. Then we launched the first versions of Giving Pages, the first basic versions. We improved first the payment component itself, which is of course the most important part. And now we're taking next steps to further improve it. Based on all the feedback we got in the earlier phases. Last release, we already did a lot. Lots of improvements on the way the front end looks like and how it behaves. Here we've further improved basically the loading speed and the rendering speed of the page, especially when there's large campaigns going on. In this release, we've made it again easier to create and update pages by making it possible to clone pages. This was a much requested feature from partners who were creating a lot of pages in the same environment. We've done several additional fixes based on feedback, and most importantly for this release, we've added several features to the product that we will be both discussing and showing in more detail. So the first of these is that we've made it possible to pre-fill donation forms with URL or query parameters. This means that in the URL to the giving page, you can pass certain variables. Before this was possible with only the campaign, but now it's possible with a lot of things, which changes the giving page and basically the data that's in there on the fly. So here you see an example where we've set the default frequency to recurring. We've already pre-filled my first name, my last name, and my email, which makes it a lot easier for the donor to basically go through the entire flow, reduces friction, which again increases the chance of conversions. And this means that you can now fully personalize a giving page for a specific donor. So we see this used in marketing campaigns where you have a button in an email and you already know who you're sending the email to, so you can basically just pre-fill all their information. It also allows you to dynamically set the amounts, preset amounts that are shown, but also things like having one giving page and link it to multiple campaigns in the background, even though the customer or the donor on the front end doesn't select a campaign specifically. And it also makes use cases where you want to track your donor across different domains, from an email to or something in person, to your website, to the giving page, and then further along in their journey to make it easier to improve those journeys. We'll be showing you this, but specifically all the options that there are and the limitations that we've put into this are available on our documentation site. The second thing is that it's also possible now to dynamically set certain values. And by that, I mean, we've introduced the concept of merge fields that are, of course, available in Salesforce to giving pages. Here you see an example where in the description of the instant bank pay payment method, I've entered a merge field first name, which basically means that if the first name is entered on the donation form, this value is then used in the description as well. And this then allows for further personalizations, as you see here, that at number 2, my first name is entered, that it's also shown on the data in Salesforce in the bank statement description, and also in the communication that in this case GoCardless sent, or that's available on the bank statement description of the donor itself. So this allows further customization, especially in combination with query parameters. You can basically customize the entire journey for a specific donor and tailor it to their, well, what you expect their needs will be. Again, here, there are certain limitations which are described on our documentation site. And now it's demo time, and Stefan will be showing you this.
Thanks, Lawrence. All right, let me take it over. So for this demo, we have prepared a giving page scenario that outlines the new features that we have added in this release. And we will start with a much requested feature, that is the ability to easily clone or create a giving page that is modeled based on one you already had. So I'm now here in our giving page manager, and I can select an existing page and I can hit clone page. Then I have to input the name of my new page, obviously. So I do, it's for the webinar. And when I clone it, all the settings and assets and configuration you have made to the page you selected are coming across to the new page. So I can simply hit publish, and now we have created a new page with exactly the same settings as the previous page. This allows, obviously, for when you would have a template for an emergency appeal, for example, you can easily clone for specific calls the page, add or adjust some of the configuration, and you have a brand new page up and running very easily. Now, when we go to this page, as you can already see, it's here in the top URL. We will start modifying it based on the new addition with the query parameters. So first off, in the page configuration, we have said that the default frequency is 1 time. But suppose I'm creating an email and I'm asking for a recurring donation. Then I can say in the query parameters, or the URL parameters, we can add a variable called default frequency, DF, and we put it to recurring. And now when I enter and refresh the screen, you can see that now the monthly option is selected instead of the one-time option. Now we're sending this email to a donor we know that is a high value donor. And therefore we don't want to ask for either 5 or 10 or 15 euros in this case, but for larger numbers. And you can do that by adding a parameter called the recurring payment amounts, and we can set multiple amounts by making them separated via the limiter. So we can say, for example, for this high value donor, we put it on 50, and then on 100, and then on 250. And then now when this person would open the giving page, he or she would see 50, 100, and 250. And you can even say, well, then also the impact narrative doesn't fit anymore, right? Because we can do more with 100 euros than we can do with 10. And you can even add that to the URL parameters with a name called the recurring narrative label. And you can say, well, the recurring narrative label for the middle option is for the webinar. And when I enter this, you now see it's monthly, it's 100 euros, and we see the text that we've added via the parameter. Now, Lawrence also showed that you can pre-fill dynamically any field you see on our giving pages. So, for example, by adding simply first name is Stefan, and when I would go to this page, you will see it's pre-filled with my name already. And in this sense, you can add any field to your, you can customize and personalize any field on your donation page with information you know or you want to pre-select for your donor. Now, the cool use cases in the last release, we added the ability to add any field in your Salesforce org, hidden or not hidden, to your page. So in the example that Lawrence gave, let's try to follow that, where we come from the website and we have a certain tracking ID or a thread ID that we want to attach to this donation, so we're able to close the loop from a reporting perspective. Now, suppose I add an input field called, we call it for the demo, we call it just tracking ID. We make it not visible, so it's a hidden field. And we map it to the inbound report to the field, for example, to the field external ID. Now, when I save these changes and publish the page, in the backend, it's now available every time a donation is made. You can set this value. And here you can see in our configuration, we added a custom field name towards this field. And if I copy that and paste that here in the query parameter or in the URL, I can say, well, it's tracking ID X. And when I do that, every time a donation is made using this page, on the inbound report, the external ID field will be filled with X. And in that sense, you are able to completely model, on the one hand, personalized donation pages, but on the other hand, also you're able to add metadata tags and types invisible to your user to make you able to close the loop and do end-to-end reporting on your donation flows. And with that, Lawrence, back to you.
Thanks for showing us this, Stefan. The last thing that we added to giving pages here is that on the pages that we showed, both one-time and recurring frequencies were available. On request, we've added a option to only show one time or only recurring. For instance, when you have completely different pages for one time and completely different pages for recurring, like we've seen with some of our customers. So that's a way to split these flows as well. On to guided matching. For guided matching, we've basically, well, we made a round of improvements, but the biggest thing we worked on was basically a thing called splitting payments, also sometimes known as having combined gifts, where you get one transaction on your bank account, which is supposed to close multiple installments. So for instance, someone has 3 invoices open with your company and they pay them at once, or they were behind on their recurring donation and they're paying off the last 3 months because they want to support you continuously. And this was a scenario that simply wasn't possible, either manually or automatically with guided matching. And this is the main thing that added, and we'll talk a bit about all the other things that we worked on later. But rather than just trying to talk you through this, Stefan is again going to show you this, because that makes it a lot clearer what this means and what you can do with this.
Thanks, Lawrence. So before we dive into Salesforce, let's first start to set the scene, right? So for the demo case, we have created an example where you've uploaded your bank statement file, and in that file, it was a transaction with a very atypical or uncommon probably scenario, hopefully for you, but I think it demos really well the capabilities we have added. In the bank statement description of that transaction, it says invoice number 12121, and then 2 other numbers, and also 20 euros for some invoice I could not find the ID for. And if there's leftover money, it can be booked towards the 8 for everyone program. So this obviously is a made-up scenario, but what we would expect here is we get one transaction in Salesforce, and then in the end, it needs to be matched against 3 known invoices, the first 3 mentioned in the bank statement description. And then we want to hand it off to a colleague of ours that can find first the 4th invoice and then book the unexpected donation towards the right campaign. Well, let's see how this works in FinDock right now. Put this back one bit. So here I have the transaction set. I already put in a transaction, a bank statement file, which creates a transaction set. And on this set, there's a single transaction with the description that we just shared earlier with you. Let me make this a bit bigger so you are able to see it really well. And what you can see here is our new guided review component. And on the guided review component, or you can see already that we found 3 installments, but there's more to come. Now, let's first talk about the automatic part, right? Where you can see in the guided matching progress component what guided matching rules already were executed for you and what the results were of those rules being executed. So the first change you see is in the bank statement ID. We did a regex rule, so we searched for an invoice number and we recognized 3 invoice numbers were mentioned in the bank statement description. And that is new because currently we would always, before this release, we would always get the first result. And now you can do a regex rule and return multiple results. Then secondly, you see, we try to find the installments that are matching with those invoices, right? Those accounts receivable. And here you can see that instead of only 1, we already find 3 open installments based on the invoice numbers. Again, a new feature, right? You can query, and instead of only taking the first result on installment, you can now take a set of installments. Then we try to find from the payment profile based on the IBAN used on the transaction, and we found one, and attached to that payment profile was a contact named Eric Janssen. And now we are here at the process installment rule. And you can see in this screen in the middle, this is given to a colleague of ours. You can see, well, there's already 3 installments found, the 980, 981, 982. Those had amounts open, so those are already booked. But the combination of these amounts in total is only 50 euros. So for the transaction still 66 is open. Now, obviously you can open these list views. You can see different fields from the installment, and you can all configure this yourself for your own use cases. But go back to the description where it says I've got 3 invoices and then a 4th one for an invoice number I could not find, but it was 20 euros. Now, when we search here, you can see all the installments that are attached to Eric, and we search for 20, and we find here an installment with 20 euros open on Eric. Again, you can modify this based with your own configuration. And then Eric said, the rest that is left over, well, the difference is 46 euros in this case, you can book on the 8 for Everybody campaign. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So we're going to add a row to the process installment. And instead of finding an existing installment, we are going to create a new one. It already brings over all variables we know from the transaction. So the amount is 46. It's attached to Eric. It has a status. The only thing that we want to add here is the 8 for Everyone program. And again, this layout is not our layout, right? It's your create installment action. And when we hit save, the installment is created. And when we would go back to this page, you would see it's attached to the process installment for 46 euros. And the difference now is 0. When we hit save and continue, the process installment rule is saved, but not for one installment, but now for multiple, 5 in this case. And we can see here, it put the transaction to match. It attached the transaction to the 5 different installments and created payments underneath those installments for the different amounts we put there. And then, because this was an NPSP org, everything is forwarded to NPSP, creating or updating the matched opportunities that are corresponding in the NPSP data model. And with that, you are now able to both automatically or manually match a single transaction to one or multiple installments. Lawrence.
Thanks, Stefan. So we're very excited about this, and it's a much requested feature. One thing I'd like to add is we put a lot of time in trying to model this in a way that's, well, these complex scenarios become understandable for either automation scenarios or for a user that has to book this. So if you have feedback on this, and especially the usability as well, please do not hesitate to contact us, because we'd really like to take complex scenarios into easy to process data in Salesforce. A second thing is that there is a feature called manual review in Salesforce, which did have this basically this scenario as a possibility, but it does the same things as guided matching. And we believe that by adding this to guided matching, you should be able to cover all the scenarios that were previously possible in manual review with guided matching. And we strongly recommend all new projects to use guided matching over manual review. So if you see a reason to use manual review of guided matching, please contact us immediately, because we really want to improve guided matching in the future instead. Okay. Lots of other things we did here. We added a new rule type called duplicate rule. The duplicate rule was already there, especially on the inbound report for API scenarios, but now you can add it yourself. You can find duplicates in Salesforce using Salesforce duplicate rules. We improved basically the UI of creating your own rules and the way that works a bit. You can now also create campaign members instead of just being to update them specifically. And we made it possible to do matching, like finding contacts based on name, finding installments based on amounts, a bit fuzzier. So you could, for instance, cover scenarios where you accept the fact that the transaction has 10 cents too little or 10 cents too much compared to an installment automatically without sending that to an agent if you feel that that's too much work for a perfect scenario. Lots of other things there that you can find in our release notes, but I'd like to move on to our last feature, which is GoCardless Instant Bank Pay. So we are very excited to launch this as a feature together with GoCardless, but we start as a beta in this case, and we need your feedback here. So what is it? so if you're from mainland Europe or familiar with the payment scene in most countries in Europe, all have a type of payment method where you can do a direct bank transfer online, authorized through your bank app or online bank environment. So for instance, in the Netherlands, we have Ideal, there's Bancontact, there's so forth. There's all kinds of payment methods like this, as often very specific to a country or a region, that make it very easy to do one-time online payments. And they're extremely popular compared to credit cards, especially in one-time scenarios. And now for the UK, GoCardless has built this. And I don't think there was something there, and credit card was dominant for one-time payments here. Why are we excited about this? Well, we've seen the success of these payment methods in basically every country in Europe, because they're fast, it's easy to do, everyone is able to do it, and it's very secure, which makes it a payment method that people feel very comfortable with, compared to credit card, where you need to collect credit card information that can then be used in the future. So these payment methods are also extremely fraud resistant. So that's a bit about the why. There's more about this on our .com website. We put out the press release with GoCardless if you want more information about this. But now let's see what that looks like. Back to you, Stefan.
Thank you, Lawrence. So for this demo, we will use the same giving page as we already had, but let me refresh this one. But instead of doing a recurring donation, I want to set up, we want to use the new instant bank payment from GoCardless. So we're doing a one-time payment. And when I hit next, I can fill in my personal details. So I give my name, and my email address. And now I can choose one of the payment options that in this demo environment were offered for one-time payments, and we've added a new one via our API called Instant Bank Pay. And when I use this one, we will go directly to GoCardless, making use of their open banking, feature. And again, I have to, if I'm unknown to them, I have to input my personal details and tell them my sort code and my bank account number, right? So for demo purposes, we use a standard one. And when they recognize it's a Barclays number. And because it's a test environment, there's this page in between. They say, what do you want to simulate? And we say, well, we want to simulate a successful payment in this case. And now I can verify all the information I've inputted, confirm, and continue. And then this is what you get as a donor. You get a screen, and I can authorize log into my bank app, which I'm going to do now. So I scan the QR code. I log in to the Barclays app. And when I've done that, I authorize the payment. And Barclays receives confirmation from GoCardless, sends confirmation to GoCardless that it worked, and GoCardless back to us. And on my desktop, I'm being redirected to the thank you page of the giving page, thanking me for my donation, and that the money is on the bank account of the charity. And that's it.
All right, thanks, Stefan. Well, as you see, this is a great and fast way to collect one-time donations. As we are still in the beta phase, it is available in your sandbox environment. So if you're in the UK, please don't hesitate to start using this and give us feedback about it, because we're very, very eager to hear both whether you like how we've implemented it, but also what you think about this payment method in the UK in general, because there are several like this, but they're all new, and we really want to see what the impact will be of this on the UK donation and payment market. Okay, so on to all the other things we did, which to be honest is quite a lot. So I will just highlight a few things. we've added 2 new payment methods. Swiss customers can now start using cryptocurrency to donate or to collect donations, specifically Bitcoin and Ethereum, which is supported by SEPA Pay. SEPA Pay as a payment service provider is a bit ahead of the pack here. Basically, crypto payments through payment service providers like Stripe was closed down a few years ago, and it looks like they're all trying to start up a bit, but SEPA Pay or Worldline SEPA Pay have made it possible already. So specifically in the Swiss market, you can start using this now. And the second thing is we've added support for Bankcontact with Buckaroo. On the next page, there are several more updates that we did. Each and every one of these updates are discussed in our release notes. So if you want the details on this, you can go to our documentation site and find the release notes here. And they all have a description and link to relevant documentation if required. So that's it for what we want to tell you. We'll stick around to answer some of the questions that have already been posted in the chat. And if you have new questions, please don't hesitate to ask them. And we'll try to answer them as best as possible. If you have somewhere else to be, thank you for being here. This entire webinar will be available on the YouTube channel, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.